Well, it is time for Dragon Ball Daima Episode 6, where actually not all that much happened, but I still have some things I want to talk about. So, really quickly, as we left off last time, our hero's ship had crashed due to being overloaded with luggage and supplies. Ponzi fixes the ship, they get back on the road. Kaioshin exposits a lot about his people. Goku and Glorio get into a sparring match where Goku naturally impresses everybody with how strong he is. Kaioshin continues to be suspicious of Glorio, and it's revealed to the audience, if not to the characters, that Glorio is in fact working for Arinsu. And finally, the other group in the Heavenly Realm starts to depart, however, their ship fails to launch. Hi, I'm Mr. Fusion. If you don't know me, I do a lot of videos here on YouTube of many topics, but including Dragon Ball, where I do an ongoing analysis series called Dragon Ball Dissection. So if you're new, please give me a subscribe, check me out. Hopefully you'll find stuff that you enjoy, but these are my off-the-cuff initial impressions of Dragon Ball Daima, so let's get going! So I came into this last time wondering where this whole ship crash thing was going to go, because structurally it felt kind of weird to me. The heroes had just had their first ship stolen, spent all this time getting another ship only to have it immediately crash. So my speculations were that it seemed to me like this could only go one of two ways. Either they would lose their ship permanently and everything they went through to get this second ship would be for no reason at all, or the ship would be repaired immediately and this detour would serve very little function. It ended up being quite a bit more of a option 2 than an option 1. Really, the only thing that happens while they're crashed is that Ponzi gets to show off that she can fix things as opposed to just saying she can fix things. And also they are spotted by a ship of the Kanpei Tai, who are looking for Goku, which establishes that he is now a wanted criminal, which would be worth knowing except for the fact that the characters in the audience both already know that, because as soon as Goku finished beating up the guards 2 episodes ago, Glorio said, "Hey, you're gonna be wanted now." And then in the following episode, we get a scene back at that village where the guards say Goku is wanted now. So this did seem to be kind of a pointless detour. It does, however, start what seems to be another running gag. And unlike the Goku gets Glorio's name wrong gag, which actually is carried out in this episode to the point that Glorio actually forces Goku to keep saying it till he gets it right, this new joke doesn't really land for me all that well, and that it's that Ponzi is annoyed with Goku for having to go to the bathroom. In fact, in a general sense, Ponzi just seems more annoyed with Goku than she did in the last episode. Which is really weird to me because, if anything, those two characters got along better than anybody else. I mean, Goku and Kaioshin have a good relationship, obviously, because they've known each other for a while. But Goku is the character that Ponzi sort of latched onto in terms of having an in with this group. She seemed to be really taken by him, not in a romantic way, but just had a connection. They had fun together. So all of a sudden she's all like, "Ooh, you smell bad. Ooh, of course you don't shower." And then this thing of, God, you have to go to the bathroom right now? Why didn't you go before we left? And here's the thing about that, is that would be fine if Goku was slowing them down. Like, the reason that people say, "Why didn't you go before we left?" is because you've left and you're traveling somewhere and you would have to stop and therefore slow your travel time down to let somebody go to the bathroom. But both times that this happens in this episode, they're already stopped and not doing anything. Like, the first time is when the ship is broken down. They're literally waiting for Ponzi to fix it. And by the way, this crash is seemingly her fault to begin with for overloading them with supplies. So this is the perfect time for Goku to go to the bathroom. And then again at the end, they've been sleeping overnight in a cave, they've just gotten up, they haven't gone anywhere, and Goku has to go to the bathroom. That is literally doing it before we leave. So I don't really understand the point here. It feels to me like the point is that they realized that, oh right, Ponzi's supposed to be our Bluma analog, and Bluma is irrationally angry on trips like these. She and Goku have always had a kind of friendly but combative relationship, so we gotta work that in here somehow. And yeah, it feels a little bit forced. That joke does not really land for me. Just let the kid poop in peace. Everybody poops. The other big element of this episode is after they get the ship fixed, they fly for a little bit and they talk about stuff, and then eventually they land for the night to rest and eat in a cave. But they wake up the next morning and find the cave is actually home to a minotaur who wants to eat them. And this is really cute, because Goku keeps calling him a cow, and that actually is a callback to an earlier Goku confusion. Just like how he can't get characters' names right, he's also had issues identifying animals. In the Pirate Cave, in the Red Ribbon Army arc, an octopus wants to eat him, a talking octopus, and Goku, I think, keeps calling him a squid, and the octopus keeps correcting him. So this is good stuff, but it really is, like, the Minotaur is not even really the problem here, because really that's just an excuse to lead into Goku and Glorio getting into a fight. Because Glorio wants to fight back the Minotaur, and Goku steps in and goes, no, you can't handle this. I don't mean to brag, but I'm better than you. And so eventually they decide, we'll just see who's better, and this part is genuinely hilarious, because then they all file out of the cave, including the Minotaur, and they all watch this fight, and the Minotaur's like, wait, what happened? This was supposed to be about me. And that, to me, is like really good Toriyama-esque humor. The fight itself is mostly what you'd expect, which is, they underestimated Goku. Let's find out how awesome Goku is, and they fight for a bit, and eventually Goku wins. It reveals that Glorio has, his magic power is basically Force Lightning. There's even like one shot where he really does look like Emperor Palpatine, like he has both his hands out with his fingers, But it's fine. It's fine. It's really the Minotaur stuff that I find more interesting. And of course, once they're done with that, the Minotaur has to, bid a hasty retreat. He tries to tiptoe back into his cave, but they notice him. And Goku gives a very friendly, that's right, now you and I can do our thing. And he's like, I am so going to eat you. Wait, I just ate somebody else. I'm really not hungry anymore. You guys got off lucky. It's really kind of classic Mr. Satan type behavior. I like it. And that's really all that happens in the episode, really, in terms of real forward momentum, at least. As I said, there are other elements that are hinted at and played with. Again, it's revealed that Glorio is working for Arinsu. It's shown that the other group has failed to actually go to the demon realm. But it's the middle part of the episode that I haven't talked about yet, where nothing is really happening, that interests me on a topic level. Which is funny, because the episode is really just going back to more exposition dumping. Because while they are flying, Kaioshin reveals information about his own people, the Gurindo, that really hasn't been said before. He talks about how they're born from trees, and we actually get to see that in flashback. And that does tie into stuff that Toriyama was saying about 10 years ago in guidebooks and stuff. Clearly, they're taking that as a prototypical form of what they're using as their backstory now. It's finally getting some kind of payoff, even if the idea of them being demons or magical people, however you want to define Majin, even if that didn't exist then, they are still incorporating that older stuff that didn't actually really get any weight inside Dragon Ball material. This was all just sort of interview stuff, now being put into Dragon Ball proper, but just sort of repackaged. There are some interesting things that kind of confuse me, like when it's brought up that he's born from a tree, Goku says, so that's why you don't have to eat, which I was like, wait, he doesn't? I think he does specifically say you don't have to eat and you only drink water, which, if you've been paying attention, that's a Namekian trait. I don't recall that ever coming up for Kaioshin before. Like, am I missing something? But it really is just sort of taken for granted. Like, I know that they are all, now Namekians are said to be from the demon realm. So they are all of this same, general grouping. But obviously not everybody falls into this, because we see the other Majin characters eat. I mean, heck, even the Minotaur eats, and I'm not sure if he's considered a Majin or not. He doesn't have pointy ears, he has pointy other things. It does seem like the existence of a Minotaur implies there are other species besides Majin in the demon realm, but there are also subtypes of Majin. Clearly Pansy and Glorio don't seem to be born from trees, or at least they don't affirm that they are, and they do eat. But so I am wondering if this is just meant as a joke, as if Goku is conflating, Kaioshin with Piccolo, just because Kaioshin seems to have been turning up his nose at food in the demon realm, which happens again in this episode. He's commented he has stated he doesn't care for this bug-derived food. When they're eating in the cave at night, they have this sort of canned meat, and Kaioshin turns up his nose at that. He looks at the label, and it looks like a centipede on there, so he just is like, no, don't even think about where that comes from. So I'm not sure if he doesn't eat, or if he just doesn't like this crap. I wouldn't like it either, personally. But, I'm a vegetarian. But what really caught my attention is when they start asking Kaioshin about his siblings, Degesu and Arinsu. Because, for some reason, I'm not sure if there even is a reason, Kaioshin frames this, or at least part of it, in terms of gender, and says that Gurindo are basically self-identified. And it's like, oh, yay, I get to talk about gender on a YouTube Dragon Ball video. I'm sure that's gonna be fun. But, it's here, I'm queer, we're talking about it. Now, please remember that this is an initial impression. None of us knows where the story is going, and I'm having to speculate on what these revelations make me think, because they do make me wonder certain things, and maybe those things will be answered later on, or maybe they won't at all. Because, I think there are a lot of ways to interpret what they're saying right here and why they're saying it. The way I framed this when I said it was kind of the best case scenario, which is, oh, okay, the Gurindo do not have a kind of biological reproductive dimorphism. That seems to be what Shin is saying when he reveals that he is just born from a tree. This is not a species or subspecies that reproduces sexually. Therefore, clearly these characters have picked their own gender identities or gender expressions. And everybody gets to be who they want to be, and isn't that just grand? But I guess my question here is, what purpose is that going to serve in the story? And that's where I get a little bit hesitant. Because, well, it might not mean anything at all, literally, because, this show has shown that it likes to just info dump, and who knows if all of these things are going to have any relevance at all. But I will say it did raise I won't say a red flag, maybe what color would be a flag that sets off a little bit of an alarm, but not like a huge one? I don't know. What color is that? Tell me what color that is in the comments. I don't know. Who cares? Because of the way this is brought up and why it's brought up. Because they're talking about the characters. First, Degesu is asked about. And I want to point out there are certain words that are used in Japanese. They use the word kyodai a lot, and the subtitles alternately translate that as both siblings and brothers depending on the context. Which is fair, which are both valid ways of translating that. However, there are gender-specific terms used when talking about his individual siblings. He does refer to Degesu as his ototo, or younger brother, and he does refer to Arinsu as one, his older sister. But I do find it interesting because they're talking about Degesu first, and the whole time they're talking about that, even as he refers to him as specifically his older brother, this whole gender thing doesn't really come up. It's only when Pansy brings up Arinsu by saying there's another one too, that woman, that Shin feels the need to say, well, actually. And that's something I find a little bit weird. That he only feels the need to correct this when the topic of Arinsu is brought up. When she is specifically referred to as a woman. Again, despite the fact that he himself is referring to her as his older sister. And I see two possibilities here. Again, I'm not accusing the show of either of these things. These are just the thoughts that are coming into my head. The first one is that this is an example of male being treated as the default and female as the aberration. There is no need to question Kaioshin, no need to question Degesu, because they defaulted to male. And that is treated as generic and requires no explanation. Whereas Arinsu deviated from the default. And that is, it's annoying, but that's one of your pick your battles kinds of things, because that is often the accepted thought patterns in a lot of cultures. I mean, hell, just the fact that kyodai is used both as siblings and as brothers, I don't think that term is used for sisters. I'm pretty sure it's not. The other one I worry about ties into how trans people, and trans women especially, are often thought of as duplicitous. The fact that Shin has to say, oh wait, no, she's not really a woman, did kind of rub me the wrong way. Maybe they didn't intend it that way, but it does come across like that. Especially given that Arinsu is shown in this episode to be a duplicitous character, that she is working behind the scenes with Glorio for some kind of purpose, but they don't want the heroes to know about it. And I say this not because it's, a trans person can't be a villain or a trans-coded person can't be a villain, but that there are certain expectations and shorthands that fiction uses. And that often the idea of a trans person being deceitful because they are trans is used all the time. Just off the top of my head, I can think of examples like Ace Ventura Pet Detective or Soap Dish, where the big reveal at the end is that the villain was actually hiding that she was trans this whole time, and those are all wrapped up into each other. It's a really unpleasant, harmful stereotype, and I hope that they're not using that to play into this. We're planting the idea in your head that she is especially evil and untrustworthy because she decided to make herself into a woman, if you know what I mean. Maybe. And look, I'm sure a lot of you are probably already saying, look, you're reading way too much into this, and maybe I am. I'm not even really I'm just speculating. I'm not saying this is what they're doing, because I don't know what the purpose of this line is. But I will remind you that these kinds of correlations exist, and I will remind you by reminding you of the existence of General Blue. If you remember, that character in the manga is very heavily implied to be gay, or at the very least is coded as gay. The people who were writing the TV series saw that, and decided to write him as if he was attracted to little boys. There are definitely harmful correlations that persist in our cultural subconscious. So yeah, this kind of runs the gamut. I'm really interested to see what, if anything, shakes loose from this. Again, either very affirming, isn't that great? The good Indo get to choose their own gender, cool. Or this is referring to an old transphobic stereotype, or this is just a bit of trivia that literally means nothing and probably shouldn't have been in the episode at all, because we just have to info dump at you. Who knows? Could be any. That's a huge spectrum of things that this could be, and I'm not saying that it's any one of those things. These are just the thoughts that have been going through my head. Oh, and one more thing. If you're one of those thirsty guys who's been lusting after Arinsu ever since the moment her design sheet was first shown, and my suggesting the remote possibility that she might even be coded as trans was enough to destroy your fantasy, good. Ooh, one more quick thing before I forget. I did say that their ship crash landing, really only served to exposit that the Kanpei Tai are searching for Goku, which we already knew, but it does feature a little bit of organic character exposition. This didn't have to have happened while the ship was crashed. It could have happened at any time, but they do start talking about the fact that Kaioshin is considered a god outside of the demon realm. And Pansy is initially very impressed by that until she realizes that he doesn't make any money doing that. And that really says a lot about what her values are and the values of her culture. After all, she is a princess, she is the child of a king, but Glorio had referred to him as being like a mob boss. So clearly there is some sort of monetary expectation. This is being done for profit, and that is something that sets Kaioshin and Pansy apart. And that's delivered really naturally. I loved it. That's great. Keep it up. Do things like that. So, hey, good episode overall. Again, not a whole lot that happened, but I think it was enough. It didn't feel like the show was just spinning its wheels. I feel like an adequate amount happened, but, it was just a kind of slower, more restful episode. So, thanks so much for watching. Please stay tuned for Dragon Ball Dissection December coming up next month. And don't forget, if you can, please support me on Patreon at patreon.com/MrFusion, and I would really appreciate it. Everybody who pledges $5 or more a month gets their name in the credits, and $1 a month or higher gets a special Discord server. $10 a month or higher gets early access to videos. And I will see you next time!